Brothers and sisters, today I wish to discuss the subject of feelings. We generally know that there are two kinds of feelings, pleasant feelings and unpleasant feelings. There are also neutral feelings too. An incident occurred when Buddha was on his way round for alms. One Brahmin called Timbaruka, he met Buddha and asked for permission to question him on a certain matter which he is interested in. Buddha said that he was on his way for alms, therefore no time for discussion, and dissuaded him. But he persisted that he should question Buddha about the subject which he is interested in. And ultimately Buddha said that he could do so. So Timbaruka asked this question: does one create pleasant and unpleasant feelings? Buddha answered, don't say so. Then he asked the next question, does another create pleasant and unpleasant feelings? Buddha answered, don't say so. Then he asked the question whether pleasant and unpleasant feelings are automatically created in the mind. Buddha said, don't say so. Then he asked the question whether there are pleasant and unpleasant feelings. Buddha answered in the affirmative, saying, yes, there are pleasant and unpleasant feelings. Then Timbaruka Brahmin asked him whether Buddha has experienced pleasant and unpleasant feelings. Buddha said, yes, I have experienced pleasant and unpleasant feelings. And Buddha then said, these pleasant and unpleasant feelings are not created by a being. They are the cause and effect. Now we ask the question, what is a feeling? A feeling is a thought created by the mind. There are 6 places where thoughts are created, and their thoughts connected with the eye are created, connected with the ear, connected with the nose, connected with the tongue, connected with the body, and connected with thoughts, thinking. These are 6 places where thoughts are created. The subject of the thoughts created are experiences gained through the 6 sense bases. Object of vision connected with the eye, object of noise connected with the ear, object of smell connected with the nose, object of taste connected with the tongue, object of contact connected with the body, and object of a thought. These create thoughts. We are now aware that every such thought consists of the 5 grasping groups. They are grasping group of form, grasping group of feeling, grasping group of perception, grasping group of volitional action, grasping group of consciousness. These are the 5. Every thought creates So in regard to a feeling, how do you create a feeling? You create a feeling of either a pleasant nature or an unpleasant nature or a neutral nature in regard to object that attracts a sense base. About the thing that you've seen, you create a feeling, whether you like it, something pleasant or something unpleasant. About a noise or subject of the ear or object of the ear that attracts the ear, you create a feeling of either pleasant or unpleasant. In the same way, you create feelings unpleasant and pleasant in regard to objects that attract the other six sense bases. Therefore, they are all thoughts and nothing else. A thought is the result of a cause and an effect. Thought arises and passes away. There is impermanence. If we take one example about something which we see, if that is attractive to you, the very thought you created in seeing that object gave you that impression whether the object was pleasant or unpleasant. And you create the feeling of pleasant nature by rethinking that object. In that thought you created the pleasant feeling, that is a complete thought where you have created the five aggregates. We all know that these five aggregates are a mental creation. We also know the value of the five aggregates in the way of comparisons given by Buddha, such as the aggregate of form compared to the collection of air bubbles of form, aggregate of feeling compared to a water bubble that arises as the result of a drop of rain contacting the water or the ground. Then perceptions is a creation, is what you know. That's compared to a mirage. The volitional activities compared to the tended plantain tree, which has no hard wood in it, or wrappings, and the consciousness which creates this is a conjurer who with the capacity to create delusions in every thought. Therefore, when you assess a thought created about a feeling, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, it is merely a composition of the five aggregates. It has no substance. Due to desire, which is in you, you like to be happy with a pleasant feeling and be unhappy with an unpleasant feeling, thereby promoting desire. Desire is a cause that creates these two aspects of pleasantness and unpleasantness. It's purely a mental creation and nothing else. If you analyze the value of such creations, it is just a mere creation by the mind, influenced by desire. When you compare, let's say, anything pleasant that has a relative meaning, That which is present to you may not be present to another. That which is unpleasant to you may not be unpleasant to another. Because it all depends upon the individual's ability to create that delusion in him. When you think of a poor man who has had no meal for 4 or 5 days, something to satisfy his stomach will give you the satisfaction for him to be happy, which would not be some wholesome food to a person who is not satisfied with that sort of food. He needs something better. He needs something of a higher grade. When you think of all aspects of life, you see this difference. Depending on experience you have gone through as a human being, a fluent person, he maintains a high grade of pleasantness. It's again a mental delusion. A person who is poor, he is satisfied with something quite ordinary. That is his stand of pleasure. Maybe something that is pleasant to a poor man may be very unpleasant to a rich man. Therefore, there is a big variance in this. It's all relative. There's nothing constant in the grading of pleasantness and unpleasantness. It is how one creates that delusion in the mind. Delusion to consider that as wholesome and consider one as unwholesome. All these are mental creations. Defilements too are mental creations and nothing but mental creations. They are habits which you have created in the mind. Habits have no standard as such. It's what you are used to. Depending upon your temperament, attitude, values, you're used to a certain way of looking at things. Certain standard of acceptance you have created, whereas the standard varies with another. Therefore, the defilements too are just mental creations and nothing else. Habits which you have got used to. Habits which you have created in your mind in the course of birth and death in the samsara. That is why Buddha speaks of 4 foundations of mindfulness to get rid of defilements and attain Nibbana. Mindfulness is one way to get rid of habits. You practice a habit or perform a certain function according to a habit created by you in your absent-mindedness. Maybe there are willful acts too, but now it has planted so well in your mind that you perform the act without knowledge, without awareness. And that maintains the habit. If, on the other hand, if you are mindful and knowing that a certain act which you commit is something adverse to you, something affecting you in an adverse manner, harmful to you, if you can be mindful and avoid that habit of committing that act, you can get rid of that habit. And that is what the Buddha has indirectly indicated in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Be mindful of body, mindful of feelings, mindful of thoughts, and mindful of Dhamma developing in you. Mindful not to permit the mind to act in the manner which it used to in samsara, but to see realistically the true state of things. When you go on persistently doing that, not allowing the habit to habitually make you to think in the way you are used to, but mindfully asking you to see the realistic aspect of the object, that obstructs the continuity of the habit. When habitually if we don't perform a certain act, the tendency in the habit is to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And finally you will be able to get rid of that habit. On the other hand, if you unmindfully help the habit to continue its activity, then you are promoting that habit. May I say that the secret of your liberation from this cycle of births is to be mindful of all activities. Activities of the body, activities of the mind. In regard to activities of the body, you observe the precepts and keep away from committing things which you are used to. In the way of mindfulness of the thoughts, you don't permit the thoughts to occur as they used to be, and direct the body to perform certain acts habitually. Your mindfulness obstructs that way of life. Constant obstruction, constantly mindfully prompting the mind not to permit such things to occur. And even if they occur, you are not readily accepting that occurrence. Mindfully keeping it away, understanding truly the true nature of the thought that arose. You are discouraging the mind from behaving in a habitual manner. Silencing of the mind, or keep the mind silent, that is the approach you must cultivate. Mindful of the thought that arises. Analyze the value of that thought. Understand that that thought is nothing but the creation of the five aggregates. Five aggregates, which is a mere creation, has no value at all. And having understood the true nature of the thought, you discourage that thought from reacting on you. You dispel the thought. When you go on doing that, the consciousness, little by little, get rid of that habitual performance of creating thoughts. It gets discouraged automatically. And there will be a marked reduction in your thinking. Further, that reduction is helped by your mindfulness. As you are mindfully watching the creation of thoughts, that discourages the mind from acting in a manner which is used to. And there will be a general reduction of your creation of thoughts. It is an effort at the start, effort to observe every thought that arises. And then you overcome that attitude of the mind. Then you carefully analyze every thought that arises as five aggregates and dispel them. That attitude of yours will also discourage the mind from behaving in the normal way of creating thoughts one after the other. That's silence which you introduce in the way of being mindful of what you are thinking, will develop by itself to a condition where your mind will be more silent. There will be less thoughts arising. That doesn't in any way discourage you from thoughtful or mindful thinking. If you want to hear or see or do any such act, you can mindfully perform that act by creating a thought. As I told you, all your feelings are thoughts. If you analyze every thought as the 5 aggregates, you will realize that those feelings which are present and unpleasant are also a creation of 5 aggregates. And they are mere thoughts and nothing else. The cause has created the result. If you see the cause as something impermanent, then the result too is something impermanent. And when you analyze each thought in that manner, cause as impermanent, the results as impermanent, there is no substance in that thought and the thought vanishes. It doesn't encourage another thought to occur. Thoughts occur one after the other when one thought gives way to the other. As you promote such occurrence, feelings too are the same. If you experience something pleasant, you go and continue to think of that pleasant nature of the object and create thoughts one after the other. But on the other hand, if you see the object as something impermanent, unsatisfactory, then you attach no value to that object of the thought, which discourages further thinking about that subject. So mindfulness is one of the essential things that you have to bear in mind to get rid of feelings that promote desire. Mindfulness of what? Of the object, the realistic aspect of the object. What is the realistic aspect of the object, or the cause? As something impermanent, something unsatisfactory, which is selfless. You can be always mindful that all that arises in you in the nature of thoughts are impermanent. Or you use the word anicca, which is the Pali term for impermanence, and be mindful of that. Then your mind will automatically become silent. Why? The mind will get rid of that habit of creating thoughts one after the other, because you attach value to that such thoughts. Now that you don't attach any value to your thinking, now that you realize all thoughts are all impermanent, mental creations, you directly discourage the consciousness in creating thoughts. More and more thoughts are created when you encourage the consciousness in the way of accepting those thoughts. But on the other hand, being watchful, being mindful of what you are doing, what thoughts occur in you, you see the true aspect, the realistic aspect of the thought as impermanent. And the consciousness would not get any encouragement to create more and more thoughts in the way of pleasant and unpleasant feelings. This discourages the development of desire in you. Desire, as I always emphasize, It's a habit which you have maintaining in your mind by constantly feeding it in the way of enjoying present feelings, by developing more and more thinking, and also creating a dissatisfaction of something unpleasant because you are disappointed over the result. But on the other hand, without falling into these two categories of and permitting your mind to live in these pleasant and unpleasant feeling by creating more and more thought, if you discourage that thing, such activity of the mind in the way of realistically analyzing the object of the feeling, then you discourage feeling. You take an example, if you see something pleasant, it certainly is pleasant to the eye, but you are not taking that, co-creating that pleasant feeling on the surface of what you have seen. But if you analyze realistically that object as something arising and passing away, impermanent, then you attach no value to that object. Therefore, the six senses bases will be discouraged from creating pleasant to unpleasant feelings in you. You will have a peaceful mind because you understand the true nature of things. You realistically see the nature of the object that attracts the sense base. That realistic understanding is created by seeing the impermanence of the object. Impermanence leads to unsatisfactory nature. Impermanence leads to selflessness. If you are thoughtful always of seeing things in that manner, or when thoughts occur to you about certain things, realistically understand the object of the thought as something unpleasant, something impermanent. Not unpleasant, something impermanent, then you discourage arising of further thoughts on the subject. You will have a calm and peaceful mind. That calmness and peace is created by understanding the true nature of the object. That calm and peacefulness leads you to reduce your thinking and making the consciousness only to create a thought when you purposefully want it to be done. What happens to you now is thoughts are created without you being aware of what is happening, because habit is so powerful in you. There is no effort necessary to create a thought, because habitually the mind is creating thoughts. And such activity is created by desire. Once you lessen the creation of thoughts in the way of realistically analyzing every subject of the thought as something impermanent, then you discourage the consciousness of creating thoughts. And you will reach a stage when your mind is peaceful and calm. You can yourself realize what peace there will be for you to enjoy. That maintenance of peace in the mind, that calmness in the mind, do not in any way affect your ability to think, if you wish to think, ability to create a thought and see, ability to create a thought and hear, ability to create a thought and smell, ability to create a thought and taste something, ability to create a thought and feel a contact ability to think if you wish to think. That ability you have now gained as a result of dispelling unnecessary thoughts is the realistic activity of the mind. That is to help you to see and not to develop unnecessary thoughts habitually, to help you to hear and not to develop unnecessary thoughts habitually, help you to smell and not to create unnecessary thoughts habitually, help you to taste and not to create unnecessary thoughts habitually, help you to contact, not to create unnecessary thoughts habitually, help to think if you wish to think, and not to continue thinking habitually, making you to fall into the two extremes of covetousness and aversion. You can understand how peaceful you can be, how calm you can be. And that calmness and that peace is brought about by the mind which you have silenced or quietened as a result of getting rid of the habitual habits which he used to, habits of creating thoughts. As I told you, feelings are also thoughts and nothing but thoughts. And every thought that you create, you are aware that you are creating the 5 grasping groups. Those 5 grasping groups are a mental creation and a delusion. With the development of the mind, you realize this creation as a delusion. And with the effort you are making now, one day you'll get rid of that habit of the mind. And you will reach a perfect stage of calmness and peace. That is what we all aspire for. That calmness and peace which you enjoy will be a state of the mind when you have got rid of defilements. As I told you, defilements are nothing but habits which you have created in your mind. And now, one by one, you are getting rid of those habits and bring back the mind to its normal, bright condition, pure in every respect, not contaminated by defilements. It's bright, and you will one day realize that it will settle down peacefully in your heart. That is what we all aspire for, in getting rid of desire. The final state of liberation is getting rid of the false beliefs we have developed. That is another set of defilements. In addition to desire, which you have to overcome. And they are the 5 upper fetters. They refer to all beliefs and nothing else. Belief in you that there is I. Belief of ownership as mine. And the belief of a continuity called the self. After you get rid of desire, these beliefs you overcome by analyzing the function of each sense base has cause and effect. That will enable you to see clearly that there is no author to any such action, and that the performance of the six sense bases in the way of enabling you to see, hear, smell, taste, touch and think are the result of cause and effect. In regard to your value as a being, you begin to realistically assess as nothing but the performance consciously of a certain act. Just this moment, all that you have committed in the past are over. You cannot recover them. That which you have to perform in the future are yet to come. What you are is just the cause and effect and nothing else. That cause arises and passes away. The effect also arises and passes away. And the final realization is that there is no being in you except causally created functions which arise and pass away. Such functions were created once through the influence of desire. And once you get rid of desire, your consciousness will be completely free. Free of habits, free of beliefs. And it has no power to look for another existence beyond the present. As desire is no longer helping the consciousness to push itself to another birth. Grasping is no longer there. Bhava, being, to be born again, that power too has vanished. And this results in no birth. The body that was created by karma, it will last till the power of that karma which created exists. Once that power vanishes, the body will perish. That is the body that you have created by karma. And the mind being silenced now, with no desire present to push it to continuity, it ceases to function. Therefore, all the karmic forces that you have created, which are behind you waiting for a chance to react in the absence of the consciousness, they fade away. There is no power to create a reaction on the karma which is in a heap behind you. They become powerless. You are liberated, and that state of mind is called Nibbana. May you all attain Nibbana.